Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including the Lego Ninjago Movie, which we'll be getting into today. I'm your host, Beatriz Mourad, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
So, Michelle, before we dive in, let's talk about the Lego Ninjago Movie's predecessors. Let's start on a positive note.
Okay.
Let's talk about its predecessors, the Lego Movie and the Lego Batman Movie. Have you seen them?
I've seen the Lego Movie. I've not seen the Batman movie.
Okay, did you like the Lego Movie?
Yeah, I thought it was better than I thought, and just, seeing all the animation was really cool, and I loved, how they were bringing in, actual human being characters into it, and, the dad and son interactions were really great, I thought. So, yeah, that movie exceeded my expectations, which were probably pretty low to begin with, since it came out when I was in college, but, yeah, it was a fun time.
Good. I'm glad. I've seen the Lego Movie, I've seen the Lego Batman movie, and I've loved both. I agree with you that I had low expectations with the Lego Movie, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And the Batman movie was this wonderful, everything I wanted from it, I got from it. I don't think it's as good. I don't think it's as good as the Lego Movie, but I enjoyed it for what it was, which was really nice. But when you first heard that Lego was working on a film way back, what was your initial reaction? I was like, why? Other than, wanting to sell toys, why? Yeah. I don't think I really knew what to think about it, except it was okay, this is gonna exist. I really have I don't think till I saw the first trailers come out that I, had any interest at all in the franchise, in terms of movies, at least. Totally. I mean, mine was, I was very cynical when I heard the news.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I was just oh, great, we're gonna get a 90-minute commercial. This is what movies are now. Why? So I was very happy when I actually saw it. When I actually saw it, I was like, oh, okay. You know what? Not bad. And hey, it did its job. It could be a 90-minute commercial because the sales of the Legos went up like crazy after that movie.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, I'm happy if it's a commercial, as long as it's a really great movie as well. So that was great. But we're going to get more in depth with the comparisons between these films, because I truly think the best way to talk about the Lego Ninjago Movie is by juxtaposing it with these films that came before it.
Okay.
But before we do that, let me just read a synopsis of the Lego Ninjago Movie, written by me, because the synopsis on IMDb sucks. Real bad.
Beyond the Call of Duty there. Good job, Beatriz.
I'm kind of cheating, because this was an assignment I had to do for a class. I had to write a
What?
movie. I had to write a movie
Really?
review. I had to write a movie review for one of my classes, and I picked the animated movie out that weekend, the Lego Ninjago Movie, because I knew that no one else was going to do it.
Yeah!
And
good for you.
Animation, I adore it. So I was like, I'm going to do this one. And yeah, so this is what I wrote. So, the Lego Ninjago Movie focuses on the life of Lloyd Garmadon, who lives in the city of Ninjago. His absent father, Lord Garmadon, constantly attacks the city in hopes to one day rule as its leader. City dwellers blame Lloyd for his father's invasions, which usually leave parts of the city in ruin. Unknown to them, Lloyd is one of 6 members of the Secret Ninja Force, a team of mecha-controlling ninjas who protect the city from Garmadon. I think that's a good sort of setup for people who have not seen this movie. And yeah, so let's hope that's enough for the non-spoiler discussion, which we will be having. For listeners who have not listened to these type of podcasts before, we are going to get into spoilers a little bit later on, but don't worry, we will let you know when that happens. So let's just get started with this movie. Michelle, did you like it?
I don't honestly know if I liked it. I don't know. I think I liked it more than I felt neutral about it. So yeah, I think I did like it.
Okay. Well, at least one
What
of
about
us
you?
did. At least one of us
did. Did you
did.
not like it? Were you negative? Legit negative?
Look, my review was funny because the feedback I got from my fellow classmates was that I was able to be constructive in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's a good skill.
Yeah. So, yes, I tore the movie apart, in other words. But I did it with a smile. I did it with a smile and a hug, just being like, ooh, why? But yeah, I did not like it. Look, like I said, if the movie is a 90-minute commercial, but it still manages to also be a great movie, I am 100% on board. But this was not it. This was just a straight up 90-minute commercial.
Yeah, I was very confused by, like, the city being, like, you could see that it was, like, kind of, like, a fusion of, like, East Asian culture, but, like, very ambiguous, but also they had, like, we've talked about how they always have, like, random pop songs for no reason, and this movie was no exception. And then, like, I don't know, I didn't really get to know the team on, like, a level, like, at all. Like, you get to know the main character, Lloyd, like, but, like, that's kind of it. And I was hoping they'd have more, like, teamwork involved and have that be the center. But no, there's this whole, like, plot about him and his dad, which is, like, fine, I guess. But I don't know. It didn't go anywhere, like, deep enough for me to care a whole lot about what was happening. Save for, like, I guess when the dad was talking about the flashbacks with the mom. But, like, yeah, it did kind of feel a little superficial in a lot of ways.
Totally. Okay, well, what did you think of the animation?
Oh my god, though, the animation's, like, the best part.
Totally.
Like, that was the one thing that topped the Lego Movie to me, because when that came out, I was like, wow, this is so cool! And I always loved how they adjusted the frame rates so that even though, like, it's not stop motion, it looks like stop motion. I thought that was really clever because it just, like, works with Lego so well somehow.
Yeah. And
this was just, like, such a cool spectacle. Just, like, seeing all the different team members and their little, like, robot things fighting. And just, like, the scale of the Ninjago City was just, like, so impressive to me. So that was definitely, like, my favorite part. Just, like, the visual elements of the movie itself.
Totally. I was very surprised by how realistic things looked. Like, they looked like the plastic looked like plastic.
Yeah, it looked like actual plastic.
Yeah. And the water around the city looked beautiful. The nature, the naturistic scenery was really gorgeous. And I thought it was gonna clash with the Legos. I thought it wasn't gonna work, but it worked.
Yeah.
So
they found a way.
Yeah, they found a way, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, I think that's, to me, that's
high point.
The only bright spot of this movie.
Oh man, this is gonna be a roast. I did not know I was walking into a roast. I'm also not surprised though.
I mean, okay, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail later. Okay, but let's keep focusing on at least the positive stuff.
Okay.
What did you think of the voice acting?
I was, like, honestly pretty fine with it. Like, there wasn't anyone that really got on my nerves this time, which, like, is a miracle to me because usually, like, like, if you have celebrities, like, I just, like, it gets in the way, like, so much, especially if they're not changing their voice at all. They just sound like themselves. It's like, what are you doing in this movie for kids? Go away. But, like, I didn't hate anyone in this movie at all. I thought they were fine. And, like, the fact that Jackie Chan was even, like, he came in to be, like, their master. Like, it was, like, whatever. Okay, like, a movie, like, do your thing. Like, I don't hate it. Okay. It's fine.
Well, here's a question. Do you think that is because a lot of the people that voiced the characters aren't well-known names? Like, I had no idea it was Dave Franco voicing Lloyd until I saw his name.
Yeah.
And no offense to the people on this list. Like, when I looked at who it was, I was like, oh, I know who these people are, but their voices aren't necessarily the most recognizable. So maybe that's why I was also fine with it.
That could be a good point, though. It's not any, like, glaring celebrity. It's not, like, Chris Pratt or, like, Scarlett Johansson. Like, I think that would have been a little more, like, in the way of me trying to see them as actual characters. But, like, these guys were very much not that way. So, yeah, I would agree. Like, the fact that they weren't as obvious was, like, super helpful in actually enjoying the story for what it was, having said that.
Okay, well, then that's a great segue into talking about the tone of the story. Because that is something I'm curious to know what your opinion is of just the tone.
I mean, it was like trying really hard to be funny at moments, but then also trying to be like I guess emotional at other moments. And I like don't know what to do with that because I feel like if it stuck to like one tone or the other, it would have played off better. Like that's what I liked about the original Lego movie. Like it was very kind of like it didn't take itself too seriously, and that like made it work so well, and that's what made like the funny stuff really funny because like it knew its premise was like Legos, and like that was fine. This movie, I don't know if it had that kind of necessary cohesion. I think it was trying to do multiple things in terms of tone, and that was kind of to its detriment more than anything. What do you think though?
I mean, I the best way I could say it is that the tone was jarring. And I agree with you that had it committed to be, because I don't know, for some reason it was kind of, at times I didn't know if it was trying to be genuine or not.
Yeah.
You know? And I was just thinking, like, yeah, the Lego movie had a lot of self-awareness, but there was this kind of heart there. There was this genuine joy in Legos. Whereas here, they weren't self-aware. And
they kept making really stupid jokes sometimes too that like weren't quite landing for me, which made when they tried to be serious really hard for me to take seriously. Totally. Like you were saying, like it's hard. Like, oh, is this supposed to be sad? I don't know. The rest of it was so like completely obviously trying to be funny. So do I take it seriously? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. There was this kind of weird balance. And I can't help but think because you know all these films are based on Legos. They're based on toys. But this one in particular was actually, it didn't come from nothing. Like, you know, this one was actually based on a toy line. This is a toy line that existed before this film. Whereas the Lego movie, you didn't have those characters before the movie came out. Mm-hmm. And with Batman, it was more like, that was more of a play on the Batman character from the Lego movie that was so successful.
Is that why he got his own movie? Because people just loved him? That makes sense. Is Wildstyle in his movie at all? Out of curiosity.
His what?
Is Wildstyle in his movie at all?
Wildstyle?
Yeah, the chick from the first one.
Oh, no,
like
she's
dating
not.
him?
She's not.
Oh, okay.
His is purely in the Batman world, like the Gotham. Okay. It's purely in the DC world. So it's, I don't know, it has a bit more of like a restriction than, say, the Lego movie. Like, you don't have him talking to Harrison Ford, to Han Solo. But,
yeah.
But it was still very much like that. They just basically took his character from the Lego movie and were like, we're going to make a Batman movie with him. And it worked really well. But in this movie, in the Ninjago movie, it really showed that there was just no substance. There was nothing, it wasn't that, what's that word? It was very thin. The movie was very thin because there was just, we're gonna get into it in a little bit in the spoilers when I can go a little bit more in depth, but there's just this lack of authenticity. It's very superficial, and that's why it just fails for me.
That's such a good point, though, because like essentially what you're bringing up is that like, so the first two Lego movies were based kind of on like characters that they had to conceive of, and so they probably had more like focused like personalities and a little more depth because they were coming out of like a crew that had to make them up and make them interesting, whereas this was the first one based solely on an actual product that existed that they were clearly trying to market like a lot. I guess like maybe there have been games for it too first. I don't know.
I think.
But that must be the big difference then, like, because they didn't have to create these characters. They already existed, but that also meant they didn't develop them nearly as much as if they were like organically making new characters for a feature film. So maybe that's like a big part of the problem.
Maybe, but then I think about Batman, and it's like, here you have someone that existed before the movie came out, and then it's like, but that helped it because you had so much there. You had such a richness in the world and in his character and his backstory. So it's this very confusing film. I don't know, like, there was so many things that went wrong in it for me.
Yeah.
That it's hard to like say, this is why.
Right. It's not even just one thing, probably. That's a good point.
Right. Okay, so let's get into the spoiler territory. Okay. guys, just go away. If
Run
you
away
have
if you
not
don't want to
seen-
know more.
Exactly. If you don't want to know more, if you don't want to know exactly why we don't think this movie works, or at least I don't think this movie works, then go away and watch it. Watch it and then come back and listen to the rest. Because trust me, it's going to be fun. So we need to talk about Hollywood's inability to deal with East Asia and the Orientalism in this movie, because Jackie Chan is not Japanese. He's not. He's not Japanese, and ninjas are Japanese. Like ninjas are Japanese. So first opening scene of this movie, it opens up, and here is this little white boy walking into this, like, it is, like, ambiguously Asian antique store. And then
what was that? And, like, how this old guy's like, oh, look at my ancient relic, a Lego. I'm like, yo, that is not fooling anyone. That was, like, one of the silliest things I saw in the movie was him being like, look at this old special Lego toy.
Like, not just that, but he just conveniently also has the ninja version of the kids' Lego.
Yeah, like, what?
I just don't understand. And it's just already from that first scene, I was just like, oh God, why? Why are you doing this? Like, it's in the name. This should be a Japanese or, like, inspired thing. And then there you have Jackie Chan. Like, I understand you need a big name, and he's probably the biggest name in that cast. But no! Or at least make, why Wu? Wu is not a Japanese last name. It's not. It's not. So, this, like, the actual Jackie Chan, the person's character's name is Mr. Liu, which is, again, not a Japanese last name. What are they doing? Like, this is not, this just takes away from that authenticity it lacks. And it does it in the very first scene. Like, that is what introduces you to the story, and it's already, like, lacking. And mind you, like, why is it that the voice cast is predominantly white, or at least not white, but non-East Asian. Mm-hmm. What's up with that? And I actually looked up because I was curious. You
were curious with breakdown? Okay.
Yeah, I was curious of, like, okay, why is this happening? Was there just no Asian, like, East Asian people working in this movie? And the thing, one, it's a US-Denmark co-production. So already.
Yeah, which is interesting. Is this their first partnership?
I don't know if it's their first partnership, but the thing is, you have two of the main producers. Because there's like a lot. There's like, what, I think 5? 2 of them are the directors from the first Lego movie. Mm-hmm. Then you have Roy Lee, he is this Asian American producer, and he's famous for producing, like, those remakes of Japanese horror films. So The Ring, The Grudge, all that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Right? And then another producer is Dan Lin, who's also Asian American, and he's produced all the Lego movies so far. So he's produced the Lego movie. I think he produced the Batman movie as well. So he's in this Lego chain.
He's in it.
So then I can't help but wonder, okay, here you have these people that have positions of power, and these are Asian American people. They have the potential to actually put in Asian American talent. Do this properly. They should know the impact of having lazy representation. And yet the entire group of writers, both the ones who worked on the story and the actual script, are all not Asian.
Yeah, it is a very reoccurring problem, but it doesn't make it any better, especially when you put it in this very ambiguous, like, city. It's just not good. It's just not okay.
You know, like, I'm all for, like, for instance, in Big Hero 6, right? They had the, like, San Fran Tokyo or whatever the name was, and it was a clear mix of Tokyo and San Francisco. But it was there, and it is not the first time. Blade Runner did that kind of thing where they mixed these kind of, like, I don't know if it was, I think it was more of a Hong Kong inspired mashup between Los Angeles and Hong Kong, I think, was in Blade Runner, but it's not nothing new. But the fact that it was so ambiguous, and I just could not stand the blatant Orientalism. And even then, there's no excuse because it just doesn't make sense. I'm like, okay, here are these producers. They should know better. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I wish we could ask them face to face.
So much. I wish so much. And maybe it was because I was like, okay, this is a film this is something that's inspired by Japanese culture. So when the whole ultimate weapon thing started happening, I felt so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable, because here you have the supposedly the blonde-eyed, light-eyed boy using a weapon of mass destruction on the Japanese, the Japan-inspired city. And I'm just thinking, this is not good. This is, the guy that's named Lloyd. I'm just no.
Yeah.
This is not, I was, in the beginning, when they first introduced them, I was like, oh my god, are they gonna, subvert this whole thing and actually call out people that do this type of thing and don't forget that, the history with weapons of mass destruction in Japan, are they not gonna put the two and two together? And they don't. Oh god. I don't care if it's a cat. I just did not feel comfortable doing it. And this is from someone who just has basic access to, Wikipedia. And this is what they do? This is what you come up with? Are you kidding me? I don't know. That just really bothered me. But tell me, what do you think?
Do you think they were trying to make it more Japanese focused? Was that the main cultural influence they're drawing from, just based off of the mechas and the ninjas? Because it didn't feel super Japanese-esque, in general. It seems like they were cherry picking very superficial aesthetic choices to, That's the thing I had the biggest problem with. It's none of this feels particular to one culture. It just feels like a hodgepodge of an Asian quotation mark aesthetic. And it's why do that? If you want to make it like you're saying with Big Hero 6, if it was a combination of San Francisco and Tokyo, those are two very specific places, and that hodgepodge sounds really interesting. I actually haven't seen Big Hero 6 yet, so I can't judge that movie myself. But this was just without any particular markers of a specific culture, and that's what really just bugged me. It's why not? It'd be more fun to be more specific. Then you could point to things that people might not normally know about. That would be really cool in this whatever this place is in Ninjago, wherever that exists. But it just felt so superficial, and it didn't feel like it really tried, and that it was really disappointing, because I always hope we've gotten to a place with whitewashing and Hollywood's just not have a good rep, especially in the past couple decades, for doing stuff and pulling stuff like this. And you'd think in 2017 they'd be a little more conscious of this coming up, especially for a kids movie. I don't know, but
yeah. For me, it's more animation is so dependent on the small details. Mm-hmm. If it's not authentic, you will know. You will know automatically if they don't know what they're representing. More than, maybe you can get away with it with live action, maybe. But in animation, it's just so clear. Because especially when you're creating you're creating a world. From whenever you're creating a world, whether it's in books and whatever, that creation, if you don't know what you're creating, or at least if you can clearly, if you're kind of diluting what inspires this creation, it is very apparent.
Yeah, and it's not seen as a creative artistic choice, it's just seen as lazy, and that's what this felt like. It just felt really lazy, and it's not cool.
Totally. I will say, there are certain things that were very deep cut kind of calls to pop Japanese culture.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It was he was trying to be a Karate Kid movie, which is already so problematic and not a legit representation either. But then making it about Legos and making it even more ambiguous than that. It's just based on these very specific aesthetic ideas of a culture than what a culture actually would be represented as. And it's it's just not good.
Yeah, it's totally, for instance, Meowthra, I was okay, that is, I at least I read it as, okay, that's a pun of Mothra, that that thing that Godzilla fights. Mm-hmm. So I was okay, and the mechas and the giant monster that destroys the city, I thought, okay, this is a callback to popular Japanese culture. Mm-hmm. But then, for them to not get the basic stuff, just tells you that they only basically that they're weebs, basically.
Yeah,
They're just weebs.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, they are weebs.
So that's, for me, that was one of the things that bothered me. But let's talk about these characters. Is there anyone that you think stood out to you? Is there anyone you want to particularly talk about? Or some things that you consider a negative from the movie because of the characters?
I didn't feel like I got to know the team well at all, which I considered kind of a bummer. I feel like my favorite character is probably Coco, the mom.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know, she didn't even have that much time to do stuff, but, like, I loved her backstory of being, like, a badass ninja and, like, you know, like, deciding to come to the city and to take her son on because she, like, wanted to have a different life and, like, I don't know, and then just, like, being a normal person, even though she has this, like, amazing backstory as being, like, a super cool ninja. I don't know, like, that was interesting to me, but, like, this movie doesn't really have a lot of depth to any of the characters except for arguably, like, Lord Gamadon and, like, maybe Lloyd. I don't know if he has a lot of depth, but, like, we sure spend a lot of time focusing on him and his plight with his family drama, so I don't know. I think Coco's probably my favorite character.
I didn't even realize she was my favorite character until you told me, because she is. She's probably the character that speaks the most to me, because the only two characters in this movie are Lloyd and Lord Garmadon. Like, those
Pretty
are the only two characters.
Yeah. Nobody else is really a character. They're just there.
Maybe Master Ru, maybe, but everybody else, I just do not like when people present us a large cast and knowingly ignore the majority of that cast.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like character mismanagement, because for me, that's just not just lazy writing, but just bad writing. Because for me, I'm just like, if you're going to introduce these characters, make us care about these characters. Don't just introduce us to a bunch of characters and then only focus on one. I just could not forgive this film for giving us this team of characters and just being like, we're not gonna show you these characters. We're gonna focus on the most bland, boring derivative of so many other character of them all. And it's just like, if I wanted to watch if I wanted to see the father-son dynamic that we see in this movie, I would have just seen Star Wars. I just would have. Like, it does it better. It gives me more satisfaction seeing it as a viewer. Like, this does nothing to the father-son dynamics that have just been so overly explored in film in general. I just could not stand the characters they decided to focus on. And even then, when they do, the ones that they do focus on, they don't say anything interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And honestly, just from, like, a marketing standpoint, if the point was to sell, how different all these team members are, like, you don't want to buy them. Like, you'd probably just want to buy, like, Lloyd and his dad, because they're the only ones you really interact with the whole movie. Like, what's the motivation for kids to want to buy the rest of the crew? They seem so boring. There's nothing interesting going on about them. And I'd assume, like, they would want to give them more of a personality, more of a focus if they want to sell all of them, you know, to people. Instead of focusing on this, like, you're right, like, the father-son, like, dynamic is so overdone. We don't need that. And, like, it was very predictable. I wasn't surprised by it. I never had a moment I was like, OMG, I can't believe Lord Garmadon, like, is gonna leave his son in the temple, even though they got along when they're, like, making that weird helicopter thing. Oh, man, what's gonna happen? Like, I didn't care. I knew it was gonna be fine. There were no real stakes in this movie for them at all, so I wish they'd put the focus into, like, the team more, because there's so many people there.
Yeah. And do you think Lord Garmadon is sympathetic at all?
No, I mean, he was kind of gone from his son's life, like, forever. He, like, accidentally butt-dialed him. Like, he doesn't really have... And then he just, like, realized, like, oh, maybe it's kind of fun to do dad stuff. It's like, wow, you really suck. So, like, and then the fact that he didn't get put in jail at the end of the movie and he could just have a normal life, I was like, what? He's been terrorizing this town for years. You're just gonna let him walk around free because he changed his mind? Like, how can you trust him?
Yeah, and this is the fanfiction muscle in me. I just wish they could have done I just wish they could have done a film where they show the absentee father and the son obsessed with the father, and then the son, through a series of events, realizing that
he's like an awful person.
Not just that he's an awful person, but oh, hey, my mom was essentially two people, like two parents, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that is amazing. Like, make it a son-mother relationship. Emphasize that. Suddenly you're subverting the very story, the very predictableness of the story.
That would have been way more awesome.
I'm just saying they need to hire me. All I'm saying.
Coco was the most interesting character anyway, and the movie wasn't even trying for that. So if she had been like way more of an element to the story and being like the reverse of what we expected, that would have been so satisfying.
So satisfying. And let's talk about the commercialism in this movie. Let's talk about how, because you said it, it kind of backfires. This movie, instead of focusing on these characters that are essentially the toys that people are going to buy, it doesn't. And yet, despite that, the action sequences are so boring because all they do is show off the toys. Like, they don't show off these cool mechas. They show off the toy versions of these mechas.
Yeah. It's like, this is the problem, because I think toys sell best when you feel so invested in a world being built, like, interesting enough for you to care and believe in, and characters that resonate with you, that you want to own their merch, you know? But when you reverse it, it's much, much harder. I feel like the My Little Pony Friendship Hates Magic franchise is like the only real franchise in recent memory that has like been able to do that like exceedingly well. But this is not a good example of that. If you have a toy brand lined up and you want people buy more, and then you just like don't invest in building up the characters of the world, and you just show off like, this is what the toy can do, isn't it cool? Oh, look at this action sequence. I bet you could like do that if you built it yourself with this cool box set. It's just like, it's not gonna be interesting, and it's not, I imagine, gonna make people buy it for like lasting reasons.
Right. And let's put the two together. Let's compare them. Let's compare the Lego movie with the Lego Ninjago movie, because it was so stark to me. The Lego movie, it relished in the creativity and the imagination of a child playing with Legos.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't limit the Legos to what they can actually do in real life. It showed us this like magical world and these crazy things these Legos could do, and yet by interlacing it with this kid playing Legos with his father and whatnot, it shows you the power of imagination, the power of creativity. Yet with Ninjago, we get this weird kind of interpretation where they're like, oh, no. We are only going to show you what these Legos can actually do when you play with them. Not the imagination, not the amazing things you can do with animation. No creativity involved. All we're going to show you is, ooh, look, this mecha, if you push this button, it shoots this thingy. Isn't that cool? And it's like, I don't need to be reminded that this is a commercial. I don't. Why are they doing this? And it's so odd because the film tries to do the Lego movie equation. Like, I feel like the only reason they had live action scenes was because the Lego movie had live action scenes.
Yeah, and like the laser pointer. What was it in the first? Was it like glue? Was that like the secret? Which is like great because that's like such a mundane thing, but seeing how that could totally like in the Lego universe be such a big deal. But like they don't really do much with the cat here. Like I can see how that's a cool concept, but then they just like got rid of the cat and it was fine. It wasn't a problem anymore. So, yeah.
And not just that, but the cat, I feel, hurt the strongest part of the movie. Because animation in this movie looks so great until the cat came in. Because once the cat was there, no, seriously, once the cat was there and you saw something that was actually real, you're like, oh, wait, animation isn't there yet. It isn't as lifelike as we like to think it is. When you're immersed in that world and you only see that style, then it's like, oh, wow, it looks so lifelike. But yet when you actually throw something something real in there, it's like, actually, it's not there yet. Not there. So and can we talk about those like crazy montages whenever they talked about the cat and the ultimate weapons?
What was up with that?
I don't know. It gave me a headache.
I didn't understand it. It just did not seem like a good creative choice to me. What was it trying to say? Like, what kind of tone was that setting? Like, we talked last time about, like, you know how Captain Underpants as a movie used a lot of different animation styles and, like, incorporated them in a way that I thought was really interesting and actually helped tell the story, like, in a funny, interesting way. But this, like, just felt really jarring. Yeah. And it happened more than once, and even after the first time, I was like, oh boy, okay, I don't need to see that again. But
and then we got it a lot. But something that's crazy is that it's like, I don't know, it reminded me of some meme-centric YouTube channel that maybe young boys are watching, so they're like, ooh, we want to get into that demographic. Like, but that's like, what that reminded me.
Logical reason, though, which is why it, like, felt like it came out of literally nowhere.
I agree. I feel like I'm trying to find logic in their decision to put it in there.
I don't know if that's the quest that can have a satisfying answer, though, Beatriz.
I mean, that is true. And let's talk about that last scene, because what is Jackie Chan training him in? Like, they don't say.
I don't know. It's too vague. Yeah, it's like the point isn't that it's happening. It's that everything's fine and isn't it great in the movie's end. It's just so bad. It just doesn't have any stakes or try to say anything at all. It is a commercial.
And you know, it always reminds me of this interview with Jackie Chan that he had on Ellen, where he says, it was like years ago, and he said how he doesn't like people like Ellen was saying, like, oh, but you're more than just Jackie Chan, and waving her hands like a martial arts type of thing. She's like, no, you're also a producer. You do all this stuff in China that's really cool.
Okay.
And then he goes, I'm paraphrasing. People can look up the video, but he says that he doesn't like it when people associate him with martial arts Jackie Chan, because he's so much more. And I'm just like, well then, Jackie, like, then why are you doing this?
Why are you doing the Ninjago movie, Jackie?
Like, the reason people think about you this way is because you are actively making these choices. And it's like, it's not helping you. Like, this is not what you want. So,
I don't want to be too harsh on Jackie, though. Like, we don't know his life. Like, maybe he just needed that money. Who knows? Maybe his kids love Ninjago so much that they talked him into, like, being in this franchise. Who knows? But, like, yeah, it is really baffling.
Look, I mean, Beyonce just released a reggaeton song just a couple days ago, simply because Blue Ivy loved the original Spanish version. So I understand. Like, I understand doing something for your kids. Mm-hmm. I get it. But at the same time, I'm just like, Jackie, like, then why say that on Ellen? Why say that on Ellen? Okay, so I have one final question for you.
Okay.
Because this is something that happened in the movie, and it just, that was it for me. I was just like, I'm done. I'm wiping my hands and going away. What is the message of this movie for you? Like, you saw it. What is the message of it?
Oh, man.
Because they say it.
Well, I guess, like, the point of Lloyd's journey was to, like, oh, it's so stupid, though, to, like, believe in himself and find his own inner true power through, like, peace. But, like, the actual movie was basically, like, isn't it great to have a nuclear family, even if your dad's, like, the worst, because, like, you couldn't be happy enough with your cool mom, and I guess it's good to have friends, even if they don't really matter, and they don't do anything, and toys are great. I guess that's, yeah. So there's, like, the message they want you to get out of it, and then there's, like, the actual message that is absolutely, like, in your face anyway.
Okay, yes, completely. They say, Mr. Wu says at the end, see, like, he, paraphrasing again, but he essentially says, see, Lloyd, even the most ordinary person can be a hero. It's essentially what he says. Right? He says that.
No, that's not what the movie was about.
I know.
I didn't realize that was the message, because it didn't reflect the movie at all.
He verbally says, see, Lloyd, like, even you can be a hero. And it's so mind-numbing to me, because here's the thing.
Yeah, Lloyd isn't shown as sucking. He's, like, pretty good at doing stuff. He's, like, pretty capable.
in the words and this is again, I'm essentially like taking things out of the review I wrote. In the words of the Lego Movie, Lloyd is the special. Lloyd is the special.
Yeah,
He's the special. And in this movie has the audacity to tell us, see, Lloyd, you a nobody can be somebody. And it's just like, what is this? It's like telling Luke Skywalker, you know what, Luke, anyone could do what you do. You know what, Harry Potter, it doesn't matter that you have a scar on your face, you're not that great. And it just goes against everything that is visually shown to us in this movie. He's the leader of the Ninjago Force. He's
kind of the, like, ultimate bad guy. He's never gonna be normal.
Exactly. He's already shown to us as anything but normal. And yet the movie's point is, anyone can be a hero. Like, what is that? What is that?
And it did not feel like the movie was even honestly about him being a hero. It was about him reconciling with his dad. It was not about him saving the day.
Basically.
And, like, honestly, that was, like, probably my biggest hang-up with the first Lego movie, because, like, it's like they almost touched on this and then just, like, decided not to because it would have been too cool to do it. But, like, you know, when Wildstyle confronts what's-his-face, I don't remember his real name, but, like, the guy who becomes the special, and she's like, I don't understand why you're the special. I'm, like, so much better than you. I want this. Why do you get it? You kind of suck. And I'm like, yeah, she is way more capable. She, like, literally called you out. Why do you get to be the special? And there's no reason for that. And they just make us believe it because he's a dude, and that's, at the end of the day, that's, like, the reason. And this was, like, had even less to go on, because, like, he's not average. Like, at least that dude really was average. But, like, this guy, he's already, like, doing pretty great for himself. He's on this secret high school ninja team. He's not a nobody.
Yeah. And, I mean, for me, in the Lego Movie, I thought the point of that conversation was, it was calling it out, and it was making fun of it. Like, they were aware of the ludicrousy and the cliche of it.
But what's the point of that? They're gonna go ahead and do the same thing anyway. Like, that feels even more obnoxious to me.
Wait, wasn't the special the brick? It wasn't actually him?
But, like, he was set up to be, like, the protagonist and the one that they needed to, like, resolve it.
Okay, well, I thought they subverted that, but it's fine. It doesn't
I will have to rewatch, but, like, I remember having very strong feelings about that because it felt like they were actually, like, they were self-aware enough to know that this was, like, kind of a stupid thing that happens a lot in movies. Like, right, you know, if you have, like, the chick who's kind of your sidekick, but she's, like, way more capable than you, but then you surpass her to prove that you're actually the coolest guy ever. But, like, I wish it ended up differently, but, like, maybe Hollywood Lego movies are not ready to, like, go there yet. But, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Clearly based on Ninjago, they're not ready.
Oh, yeah.
They're not.
I am glad the one chick on the team, like, wasn't his love interest. She just kind of existed in the background with all of his other friends, kind of equally.
See, if they had actually bothered... But here's the question. If they had actually developed those characters, would she have been the love interest? Oh,
that's the thing. Like, maybe... Yeah.
You know, were they just gonna disappoint us even more had they given us what we have told them we wanted? Where they were just like, nope, we want you to hate this movie, so we're gonna mess it up in every way possible. I don't know, but...
I don't know.
Okay, well, after this, I feel bad. After this conversation, I feel like I've turned you. And
I was never in love with this movie.
I know,
the listeners can go back to the beginning for proof of that.
You know, you did say you liked it, so I feel bad now. I'm like, oh no, like, I don't want you, like, to not like it anymore.
I didn't hate it. I honestly think it takes, like, a lot of being upset with the movie for what it's doing to hate, but there's, like, so little here, it's really hard to hate it. So the most I would ever feel is neutral, but just solely based on the animation, I think, like, I still kind of like it. I would never purchase this movie. I would never own it willingly in my apartment, but I don't hate it.
That's fair. Again, I don't... Look, just to give you guys a little insight into my life, I had to watch any movie in the theater to review for my assignment. I watched this one and I was like, you know what? I don't really care that much about this movie. I'm gonna watch Kingsman, Watched it, again, same feeling of not caring. So I went and watched Battle of the Sexes. Let me tell you, like, again, it was a movie that I was like, it's fine. I am not kidding. This movie, it was when I was writing it that I was like, oh, there's actually a lot in here that I can unpack. So the feelings you're going to get from this movie are just essentially not caring, because there's nothing to care about.
But I think you did bring up a lot of really good points. And I think it is a sign of a successful argument to convince somebody, say if I had been like very far on the happy spectrum with this movie, that I actually shouldn't like it for all these reasons. Like, I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with convincing people because you have good evidence and good points. I'm just saying that if you don't actively engage with the movie, yeah, it flies by pretty quick, and your brain will be fine.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is me forcing myself to actively engage with it. Yeah. That's what came out of this. So, just so everyone knows, it's not that I hate the movie, I just really don't care. And I was just unimpressed. But, yeah. Anything else you wanna tell, anything else, any comments that you want to say about the Lego Ninjago movie before we finish off?
Why do they pronounce it Ninjago instead of Ninjago? I was not expecting that. I was so confused!
It could have been like the Ninjago Force. I don't know.
That sounds more like, I don't know, like weird kid anime-esque for some reason. Yeah, just like having the word go in it. But like Ninjago, I don't know.
That kind of reminds me of like the Power Rangers in a way. Like the Mighty Morphin, the Ninjago.
Yeah!
That could have... I could have been like, oh, I see what you're doing. You're making a callback to those type of things. But no, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. All right. So that's it for this podcast. Find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Lily, aka Panda Lily. And thanks as always I need water. And
yeah, it's almost been an hour. I don't blame you.
And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Andy. Michelle, where can people find you outside of the podcast?
You can find me on YouTube and Tumblr under the username Purview Productions, and on Twitter under Purview Pro, if you're curious about things.
Awesome. And if you want to add a face to my lovely voice, you can find me on YouTube at the Be Real Movie Channel. Warning.
Okay. Question. I tried to find it and I couldn't.
Oh, okay.
How do you spell Be Real?
Okay, B, like the letter B, dash.
Oh, there's a dash. Okay.
But you don't have to put the dash in. You can put real as in REEL.
Oh.
Not like real as in like real life, but real as in like the be real of a film.
Yeah! No! Oh, I think I found you.
Oh, God. All right. So, okay, do me a favor. To anyone who decides to check out the channel, watch the latest 20 videos. Don't watch the first 40. They're trash. Like, I had to make them.
Don't watch the first 40. They're trash.
Look, I had to make them to get better, so that's why I haven't deleted them, but they're not great. You can, the true quality of my, editing and camera skills and whatever, and presenting myself properly in front of a camera are in, the latest videos that you see. So, yeah. Warning, my face. Thank you for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.